Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Brad McKinnon here. Today we are in a bathroom doing this patch repair on the edge of the shower, just above these tiles. You can see there that the corner bead is gone a bit rusty from water leaking out of the shower somewhere, and it's leaked down the wall. So we need to cut this corner bead out and replace it with a new piece and patch up the wall. Now, the builder rang me and said he went in and replaced the plasterboard behind the tiles there. He pulled the tiles off, replaced the plasterboard, put the tiles back on, and then he rang me and said, can you come and patch up the rest of the stuff above the tiles? So below the tiles is all repaired. I'm going to repair above the tiles, and we've just removed that corner bead, and we want to remove all the loose sort of plasterboard that's gotten wet and gotten soggy, and we want to put some new stuff in there. So we're just cutting out this. You can see it's got a bit of mold there. We want to get rid of that, and all the loose paint, we're going to cut that off as well. Now you can see there that the builder, you can actually see the new piece of plasterboard behind that tile on the right side there. So he's repaired all that. Just in case you're wondering why I'm only doing above the tiles, it's all done. So we're just cutting out, finish cutting out the rest of that loose stuff, and then we'll just get all this flaky. This stuff, when it gets water damage, it just sort of turns to powder. We want to get rid of all that. And what I like to do as well is scrape all that paint off, just for when we do our plaster on there. It's just going to adhere better to the plaster there, or the plasterboard that's already there. I reckon plaster sticks better to plaster rather than straight onto paint, and especially the plaster I'm using, which is an adhesive plaster, and it's a patching plaster. So I'm going to be doing all 3 coats in one go. This patch will sort of take me about 30 minutes. And we'll get to that in a minute, but we'll just finish doing these, putting these new pieces of plasterboard in. I'm using the green Aqualine, just in case it gets water on it again. At least there's a bit of protection there. So we're just going to cut these to fit, one on each side. And just using the factory edge or the recessed edge. It's a bit stronger. Screw that in there, it's not going to split or break on the edge. So we got those fitting in nicely. We'll use a couple of drywall screws, screw them straight into the timber. There's just a bit of mold there. We're going to sanding block and get rid of that. Don't want any of that coming back. Just clean off that timber, and we'll put that new bit of plasterboard on, and we're going to put our bit of slimline on. Now we used that hacksaw to cut it off to get that nice clean cut. Now we can use our snips to cut the new piece, and we don't cut right through the tip, we just cut up to the edge there, and then we can bend and fold, and that'll just break off with a nice clean cut. So we've got 2 nice clean edges meeting each other, and I like to just trim off those edges at a 45 degree just so they're not hitting on the existing. We want our 2 points to match perfectly. And when you can use staples to put this on, just make sure that's looking nice and straight when you look down that line of that corner bead. Now we're also going to use some fiber fuse just to tape over everything, just to add a bit of strength, just because we've got a couple of joints as well from that new plasterboard. I just like to angle the tape on the top just to make it easier when we're putting our plaster on and we're feathering that edge. Now if you saw my last video, I did a small drywall patch using the same plaster, Victor Cornice Bond. It's an adhesive plaster for installing plaster cornice and plaster moldings. Now, this doesn't have an exact setting time. It's normally about 40 minutes to an hour. But when you beat it up on your hook, yeah, like what I'm doing, it's going to set really fast. So the more you use it and play with it, the more faster it's going to go off. So I mixed up some powder in an ice cream container, and I just took a bit out for my first coat, gave it a good beat up for about 5 minutes. And that's going to mean it's going to go set hard in about 10 minutes. So I'm only using the one mix for this whole process. It's great for these little patches. I can finish them in just one visit, and there's no sanding, so you'll see how I finish them with the polish in a minute. So we'll just fill that with some plaster first, and then we'll put in our fibre fuse tape. We'll press that in, and then we'll fill over it again with another coat of plaster. So this is our first filler coat. I want to fill it in nice and good on our first coat. Feather in the edges straight away, and we'll clean off those tiles, keep everything tidy as we go. So you can see there it's already starting to go off, already setting up that stuff. If I go back to my little container, you can see there that's pretty much gone. And we go back to my container there where I've got my mix. It's still there. That stuff that I haven't been beating up and playing with is still fine. So we've got our next bit out, and we'll give that a good beat up. So now that that's set, we can give it a scrape. Just clean off any dangly bits. Ready for our next coat. Again, we'll just sort of play with this, beat this up for another 5 minutes. So that'll start going off fast as well. In fact, you can actually keep, the more you beat it up, you'll actually start feeling, you'll actually feel it going hard on your trowel. So we'll just fill crossways on this one. Fill in any hollows we left from the first coat. Again, clean as we go. Now that's set again, and we're onto our final polish coat. So we've got some nice fresh stuff from the container. We're just going to do a real fine finish coat using that water that we brushed on. It's just going to make it glide over what's there, and it's just going to come up like glass. Feather in those edges. That'll be it. That'll be the finished product. No sanding involved. Don't have to come back to do multiple coats. Don't have to come back to sand once it's dry. So nice and quick for me. Nice and quick for the client. That's the beauty of this plaster. It's great for these little patches. So if you like these videos, guys, there's plenty more on the channel. Check them out. If you've not subscribed to the channel already, please do so. Hit the thumbs up if you like the video. All these things help out the channel. I like to just use my brush, clean up the edges, clean any plaster off. And that's going to be ready for painting. We're going to let that's going to need to dry, even though it's set hard. It's going to need to dry out over the next day or two before it can be painted. Yeah, that's the patch done. Now just to show you the plaster, there's my first 2 coats plaster I use. It's rock hard already, but then look, the stuff in the container is still usable. So I've probably still got another 20 minutes left of that. Thanks guys for watching. See you next time.